Good evening, Internet! Well,
Hello.
well, it sounds better than good evening, the tablet sitting on our chair. Welcome to our festive hobby hangout, where we'll be mostly festiving and not so much hobbying. I'm wearing a Christmas hat. Cathy has got her Christmas hat.
Yes.
It is a.
It's quite sort of, okay. There's probably enough space for people to see the effect of it.
It's a very big hat.
Ah.
It's squishy.
Yeah,
It's so impressive. It's imploding. It's imploding under its own awesomeness.
No, it's fine. I just didn't want to put it all the way on because I don't think I can wear it the whole time, and my hair's not going to look great when I take it off.
Fair enough.
Also, I mean, I don't think it does so well in virtual. I think it's like an in-person hat. I've had a couple of work meetings where I wore it, and one had a hat competition, and it didn't do so well. So.
Oh well. I've just got my Santa hats that I wear this time of year because why not? Keeps my head warm. So, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the standard stresses of coming up to Christmas, but you know. I think
standard.
I think I stress more rather than you do.
That's reasonable. Well, no, I think I was really organised with ordering stuff online this year. Yeah. So.
I think we had to be, really.
Well, yeah. But yeah, I'm okay. I feel like I'm okay if I'm just like looking at like the house or like local things. It's probably best not to think about other.
No, don't go on a macro level. That's that way madness lies.
It's very much not okay. But yeah. I guess I'm doing okay myself. You okay?
I'm fine. I mean, you know, the turkey's turned up, which is a weight off the mind.
How are you feeling about the ham?
Still peeved about the ham, but you know.
But there's emergency ham.
Yes, but the emergency ham is significantly smaller than the ham I was after. However, I will just have to get one next week, and we'll have ham into the new year.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be positive about this.
That's good. Yes. I think everyone else in the house is like fine. But if that's what we want to do, that makes sense.
Yes. We are sitting. You might be able to see some of our random Christmas decorations. If you could see over there, there is our Cathy's 8 Days of Christmas.
The next 4 will hopefully be there next year.
Right.
I was going to say, if you're pointing to it, no one can see it.
There we go. Oh. Briefly didn't like it. We'll put a better picture up on our Facebook page.
Actually, it occurs to me, looking back through some of these to get them sorted for YouTube, you said we were going to put loads of pictures on the Facebook page, and I was like, we've not done that.
No, we need to get better at that. We're doing this for fun half the time.
Yes.
So yes, we will do. I promised someone some pictures of models, so I'll need to get those taken at some point, so I can put those up, so you can all see my wonderfully painted Thanos that is finished. I don't think and my Rubric Marines, Rubric Scarab Terminators from previous.
There was a guy on a motorbike.
I haven't really done.
Okay.
I was cleaning him up, but I haven't really.
Okay.
Yeah. As we said, we're not really hobbying. I mean, I do have a time demon here. I might do some just brief cleaning up on, but.
Was that what that was? That's probably why I couldn't figure out what it was earlier when our son was waving it around. It's like, that's Daddy's thingamajig?
Thingamajig, definitely. Well, I might have already lost a bit off of him. That would be annoying.
The box fell onto the floor because it was balanced a bit precariously.
Okay, that explains why one is
Yeah, sorry about that.
Missing.
I couldn't tell if it looked like anything was missing from it, so I just scooped up the pieces I could find and put them back in the box.
Okay, there's an antler somewhere on the floor then.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I couldn't really tell what it was, so it was hard to tell if it was complete.
Excuse me, I think I see my antler.
Okay. Sort of festive.
There we go.
Okay.
That's fine. I can put it back together.
Yeah, it was just on the edge of the sofa.
I'm also consuming a mince pie that I made myself. It's not really hobby, but it's a homemade puff pastry mince pie. So it's all good.
It's very round.
It is very round, but it's very puffy.
Yes.
And quite empty inside. But
Oh.
it's actually quite... No, it's good. It's good. It's crisp. It's very good.
Oh, okay, sure. I don't really eat mince pies, so I don't know about this sort of criteria.
Oh, it's good. Anyway, so what did you read? In the last week, what have you read? Well, I ate my mince pie.
Okay, sure. So...
On.
Are you going to do eating sound effects, please? So I finished The Sea Is Ours, which is the anthology I was reading last week, because I think I only had like 1 or 2 stories left. And now I'm reading To Be a Queen by Annie Whitehead, which is on my Kindle, which is why I've had to open it, so I have to double check that. So that is a historical book about Ethelfled, Lady of Mercia. She was a very impressive historical figure. So she was the daughter of Alfred the Great, and she was married to a guy called Ethelred, who was sort of Lord
The Unready?
No, not that one.
Oh,
Different.
not that one.
Ethelred.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different Ethelred.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So not the famous one.
no. Well, because he wasn't like King of England. Well, Alfred wasn't technically King of England. He was King of Wessex, but Wessex and Mercia sort of joined forces to beat back the Vikings. Which is kind of where I am in the book at the moment. And she's just been married to Ethelred, who's basically the Lord of Mercia, or the King of Mercia. Because this is when England was still different kingdoms. But Alfred kind of does a lot of steps towards kind of setting up what that would be like. And then it's his grandson, Athelstan, who actually becomes king of all the England. But Athelstan was actually looked after by Ethelfled, who was his aunt, and she also just did a lot of like ridiculously significant stuff within Mercia. So she's kind of called Lady of Mercia because she wasn't quite queen. Because I think Ethelred her husband wasn't quite king. But it's sort of this odd thing because Alfred the Great's wife wasn't called queen, but that's because in Wessex they didn't really like calling women queen, whereas other kingdoms would call them queen.
No.
It's a bit of a thing. We have different like groups of Saxons and Angles. Doing different things. So at the moment she's only just been married off and she's been gone to Mercia, which at that point includes London, which they'd just taken back from the Vikings. You sort of think of it Mercia as being the Midlands, but it was pretty big at one point. But yeah, so it's kind of, for her it's a bit of a culture shock, even though you think, well, it's just one part of the country to another, but obviously at that point they were different kingdoms and different cultures, and like everyone spoke the same language but different dialects and stuff, which I guess is still sort of a thing in Britain anyway. But yeah, she's just a very impressive figure, and so I thought I'd read this book about her, and I think the author has also written a non-fiction book about Mercia, so I might pick that up at some point. But so not very far in because she's only just kind of been married. So, but I think from what I remember from the history stuff, she actually does some actual fighting and does a lot of very sensible stuff, and continues a lot of sort of policies and things that like her father and husband were also doing. Also, she ends up passing, because when her husband dies, I think she just stays as Lady of Mercia, which again I think is called Lady rather than Queen, and then she just passes it along to her daughter. And I think that's one of the very few sort of royal mother to daughter successions there is in English history.
I will bow to your superior knowledge of English history.
Well, I mean, this isn't a time period that I'd say I'm massively good at, but like I've heard various bits and pieces, and I've been listening to a lot of history podcasts during lockdown. I think I first heard a lot about it. I kind of heard of it roughly, but first heard a lot about it on Rex Factor, because they're doing Queen and Prince consorts in their series 3 of England. So yes. That's which is quite interesting as well, because their first series was all the kings and queens of England, like the monarchs, and then their second series was Scottish monarchs, and then the third series is the consorts of the English ones. But because some of the consorts will be like noble women of the area, but some of them will be like foreign princesses. So then you hear a bit, I talk about their lives, about of the countries and things. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I have not been reading anything, so what did I finish last time? Third book of something.
The dragon one?
Dragon one, most likely, yeah. No, I spoke about that one last time.
Yeah.
I finished that one. I started something else.
I thought you said because it was book.
No, I was reading X-Men. That's what I was doing in between.
Yes.
I finished reading the X of Swords. X of Swords event that was going on. It was an event. One of those ones that really, I'm not sure what sort of lasting impact it would actually have on continuity. It can either go one way or the other. It'll either have, you can either be, it upends everything completely, or kind of, everything goes back to normal and you don't really notice. Yeah.
And they never spoke of it again.
Yeah. I'm not sure where this one's going to end up. Could go, actually, most likely on the no one ever speaks of it again.
Okay. How much of that is there at this point?
Depends
Remember that
on
thing
them.
that happened last year? No, we don't talk about that.
Depends on them, yeah. Yeah, Battle Worlds they don't talk about. House of M.
I was going to say House of M would be the main mutancy one that I'm aware of happening before, because you were reading it at the time, and it did seem like quite a big thing.
Yeah, but not many of them actually remembered,
Well, it's kind of reality warping, so I guess it
Yeah.
kind of made sense. But didn't it have the effect that it massively reduced the mutant population?
That did, but
That felt like an effect, I guess.
But that was, but the whole House of M didn't really. That was Wanda Maximoff being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like it was kind of an interesting way of looking at an alternate reality.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a what if that then did have implications for the main.
Slightly. I say the No
Right,
More
so-
Mutants did, but the actual. But that's kind of was only her reaction to them stopping House of M.
Oh, okay. I don't really know the main plot. I know there was some weird stuff with Spider-Man, in that everyone thought Spider-Man was a mutant,
Yes.
and in that world mutants were like, great. So everyone's like, yay, it's Spider-Man, he seems cool. And then they found out for some reason Spider-Man wasn't a mutant, and everyone's like, oh, let's, and then there was hate mobs, and it's like, why would it make a difference? He has spider powers. But that's the whole general weird Marvel thing. It's
That's the
these people who can do impossible things and fight stuff and have fights in the street and kind of protect people but probably also cause some problems are fine. These ones are not, because they are mutants, even though it's functionally identical. But
Yes.
I guess that's kind of how prejudice works.
Exactly. Anyway, so that was
I'm
a
surprised more regular superheroes don't get accused of being mutants because they've got secret identities, and how would you know if they had an X gene or not?
it was a 22 issues crossover event. That we'll see. I've got some of the recent ones to read and see whether it'll have any impact. What I'm actually reading at the moment is Tamsyn Muir's Harrow the Ninth. Obviously the book's upstairs. I just brought the dust jacket down. Which is the sequel
Oh, okay.
to Gideon the Ninth. So this is, how to describe it? Sci-fi necromancers, basically.
In space.
Well, yes, sci-fi necromancers in space.
Yes, that's sort of how I've heard people describe it.
I mean, the Charles Stross quote on the front being, lesbian necromancers
There you
explore a haunted Gothic palace in space.
Yes, I think I'd heard lesbian necromancers in space as the tagline.
I feel you could, I don't think it necessarily needs the lesbian part. I mean, they are, but it doesn't really factor into it.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's
Kind
just to let people know that.
It is. It's an odd.
It's fine to say it if that's in.
Yeah, I'm just saying. If you pick this book up expecting that wall-to-wall lesbians, you're going to be disappointed.
Okay.
Anyway, so Gideon is a member of the Ninth House in this world. The Ninth House is the Locked Tomb, and she is keepers of the Locked Tomb, House of the Sewn Tongue, the Black Bastions. She is persuaded to go on a trip. I say trip lightly, with the head of the house Harrow. I'm not going to try and pronounce her second name because we're bad at names here. And it's very, very. If you don't like blood, well, lots of talk about bones and blood. But it's interesting. It's very different to. Glad Lovers. If she likes Gideon, sorry, Bethan's commented. If she likes that, then definitely. I don't know where this is going yet, but definitely more of the same. So.
I think I saw that at their house it was being read.
Yeah, definitely worth picking up if she's enjoyed the first book. As I say, it's very different. It's something that I think is definitely worth looking into if you like sci-fi, even if you like fantasy, because it's not heavy science fiction at all. It's in space, but you don't really know this. They don't go space opera on you.
Okay.
So you
kind of got a space opera and you've got hard SF.
Yeah, but
I guess it's not either of those.
No.
But like, because space opera doesn't have to be like sciencey, and hard SF.
No, I suppose so.
Sort of does, I guess. I don't really read so much of that myself.
So yes, Harrow the Ninth, Gideon the Ninth, definitely worth reading. Just to say, very different, very enjoyable. Right then, that's me waffling for a bit.
Yeah, sure.
So our next thing is entirely unscripted and unplanned. Because we're festive here. Mince pie, glass of water. Less festive, that one.
Yeah. I did want to fresh crack open some of the cider I bought, and I thought maybe not from being recorded.
No, I did think about the whiskey and thought, actually, perhaps we'll save that one.
Yeah.
We're not quite ready for a drunker soda, I think is the...
No. That's fair enough. It's
We've got not really, no. So we are going to talk festive. We're going to talk Christmas. We're going to talk what we enjoy about what we enjoy at Christmas. So, so we'll start with Christmas reads. Is there any books you've enjoyed reading at Christmas or a Christmassy theme?
I mean, I guess Hogfather's kind of an obvious one.
Yes, I mean that one's on the nose there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have the word Christmas in.
No.
But obviously it is.
I read a section for the libraries. If you want to hear me reading a section of Hogfather, check out Sturchley Library's Facebook page, and you can find it there.
Obligatory library.
Yeah, well, you know. If you want to read Gideon the Ninth, it's available from Franklin Library.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. But you can't go in the library now, can you?
From the 4th of January, we provide an order and collect service. So if you want to borrow it, you just have to come and collect it.
Okay, I need to ask a library question.
Yeah, you don't want to have an answer on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Hogfather, obviously, as we like Discord and already talked about it.
Yes.
A few episodes back.
I think that one's because it's Christmassy, but it isn't, and it plays on the tropes for.
It's taking the trope of Christmas and putting it in Discworld, so it's Discworld in Christmas. Have I just verbed Discworld? Yes, I have. That's fine. But it's also it's not taking the kind of. It's kind of poking fun at a lot of the secular parts of Christmas. It's not kind of commenting too much on the sort of explicit Christian part of Christmas. I don't think there's actually an analogue for Christianity really.
No.
There's probably analogues of lots of particular bits. So there's lots of stuff about traditions and things, and some of them is the secular stuff, and some of it is kind of older traditions. But the whole theme of it is old gods doing new jobs.
Yeah.
So it's more looking at like the syncretism of having a winter festival and what that winter festival becomes over time compared to what it was initially, which kind of, I think, feels quite pagan.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's Discord and because of the way it is. But then you can still have sort of Christian stuff in it. I mean, if you look at Box of Delights, for example, which is actually a TV series rather than Well, it's a book and TV
Of
series.
course,
Yeah.
let me get to that one.
Okay. Well, that kind of has a bit of that
Yes.
feel, whilst also having very explicit Christianity in
Yes.
it. To the point where I once used the phrase "nobbling a bishop" on the Facebook wall of somebody who is in the clergy, and then he deleted it and goes, "At least that I thought maybe it was rude." I'm like, no, it just meant they were kidnapping bishops, but also I could understand.
Yes.
And he was like, "Sorry, I deleted it. I didn't know what it meant." It's like, no, it was just
Fair enough.
it's just like a 1920s word for like kidnapping, because somebody else they've nobbled the bishop. But also speaking stuff that's like Hogfather, on TV there's Rise of the Guardians, which I think we saw a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix at the moment, and I watched it with our son the other day. And that's actually an Easter movie,
Okay.
because it takes place around Easter. But Santa Claus is in it.
I was going to get to TV about
Oh, okay.
eventually.
I'm just going cross. I'm just
Yeah,
going
you're just completely destroying
You
my...
said it was unplanned.
Yes,
How are you suddenly saying, "Oh, we had an order for things"? No,
but
we didn't.
that's why you're completely
Just in your
destroying my...
head.
That's where my best plans live. And my worst ones. Right next door.
Yeah. But yeah, so with Hogfather, because Rise of the Guardians has a lot of similar content to Hogfather, but feels completely different. So it's quite interesting to watch from that point of view, because that kind of takes out either the paganism or the Christianity. It kind of has that holiday thing you get. Obviously, it's American as well, so that's got a feeling, but it does have some more mystically feeling bits. But it's kind of got the idea of holidays, and it's focusing on the child side of things, which is kind of an aspect of the secular part of Christmas, but also ends up being quite a focus in Hogfather in a different way. So, yeah. Other festive stuff that I have read. I think I quite often pick up books that realise in the festive and read them at the wrong time of year.
No, that's fair enough.
The one that kind of springs to mind is The Dark is Rising, which I have an interesting kind of history with, in that I actually saw the film first. The film is not great. I went with my brother, who was probably a teenager at the time, or maybe in his early 20s, and he said it was really cheesy, and he's not particularly a fantasy fan, and it was quite cheesy, but you watch something and go, there's a better version of this in the original, I am sure. And then I read it once and quite enjoyed it, and it's kind of around your neck of the woods, isn't it, because it's set in Oxfordshire. And there's all the it's in what I'm assuming is the 70s.
That was when it was written.
Yes, so yeah. And that was quite good, but then I read it again some years later and didn't get on with it quite as much. And I'm not really sure exactly why. Whether it was because I already knew what was roughly... I didn't remember all of it, what was roughly happening. But yeah, I sort of bounced off of it a little bit the next time I tried to read it. Which may actually have been at Christmas rather than just at some other point.
That was one I might have done for a reading for work, but I couldn't get hold of a copy.
I think we have one in the house.
That might have been helpful if I'd have remembered that.
Well, because that's I think I bought the version that we read, but I don't know where in the house.
Okay, that's fine.
We have a lot of books.
We have a lot of books and there's no order whatsoever. For a member of library staff and an ex-member of library staff, our books are terribly organised. But why do I want to do it? What I get paid for it.
No one's paying you to do it.
Yeah,
in the house.
although it will make finding books a whole lot easier. That one I was I'm intrigued to read. I mean, it's
I think
because it's obviously
have you not read it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I haven't read it recently. I might have read it when I was younger and simply can't remember.
Sure.
I read a lot when I was younger, so it's highly possible I have read it and then can't remember what So I would have to.
Yeah. The other one that comes to mind also that I read earlier in the year was Wintersmith, which isn't about Christmas, but it's another Discworld winter one.
Yes.
It's kind of specifically winter. But that's... It's kind of like Narnia. It's very winter, not Christmas.
Yes.
Very winter. But also not, like, Narnia, actually.
No, but I mean...
But it's looking at winter as a thing.
Yeah.
Rather than...
I mean, Narnia is one of the ones I was going to mention, because, yes, it's not...
Santa does appear.
He does appear. Father Christmas does appear in it, and yes, you're right. It's very winter, not explicitly Christmas, but
that's the sign that the curse is breaking.
Yes.
So Father Christmas can turn up and give out presents.
And it's in some ways, for me, it's linked with Christmas because of it being the TV show, which I'll talk about more. We'll go into that when we get onto TV
Okay.
or
Is that coming next?
That'll be coming next.
Right, sure.
So what other? So I did have another one I thought of. I can't remember now. No, I should have.
Should have had a notebook like I often do.
That would have been helpful. Yes. So yes, I think Hogfather is the main one I do read at Christmas.
I should probably write this down when I have to put it on YouTube. Oh well.
I've read Box of Delights.
Yes, well, I
which
read
is
Box
very
of
very
Delights,
Christmassy.
Yeah. That's true. I did, because I read that before I even knew there was a series, because the series was kind of a bit before my time, and then I read the books. I think I read Box of Lights first, and then later I read the prequel, which is the Midnight People. Well, it's not a prequel, the first one.
Yeah.
Because they were written in that August, and Box of Lights was adapted.
Yeah, so that's very Christmassy, and again, ties into the TV thing. So
yes, well, that's one of the ones that's got. It's kind of both explicitly Christian and explicitly pagan.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of like the Box of Lights doesn't go through time, so there's a bit of there's Romans, but then there's also
Herne the Hunter.
Herne the Hunter, yeah. And lots of magic, and there's like his oh no, the witch is in the previous one, isn't it? Because he's now got a nice guardian, but his previous guardian was a witch, and that's in the Midnight People. But yes, Kay, boy, isn't it? And
so it's very.
But then there's also the fact that they keep stealing the clergy, like, you know, kidnapping the bishop and various people, and then the bad guys are pretending to be clergy.
Yeah.
And I can't remember why, but I guess if we watch it again, they'll remind us.
Yes, and then there was something about the bells and the
wolves are
running. Yeah. So it's so very. But that's that one you have to get past the language in that one. Is
well, that I think was 1920s. Wasn't
yeah.
it?
So that one. It's interesting.
That's what they said they noveled the bishop.
Yeah. And obviously,
but it's just like reading. Again, it's a kids' book from the 20s. Yeah. Like, I mean, I know they kind of like abridge a lot of things a bit more now. But then I feel like I've read various things with that in the past.
Yeah.
So I think I only read it when I was a kid. So
I'm trying to think. There are a few other Christmas stories though, but I can't. I did a 12 Days of Christmas thing on the library's Facebook pages a while ago, which I did include a number of Christmas books, some I hadn't read. So, did you know that? No, it's a point. Go on. Film has gone.
Were you going to say about the TV thing? You
were
telling me before a book was being adapted.
Oh, and that's A Boy Called Christmas. That's the Matt Haig book, Boy Called Christmas. I haven't actually read that one.
Okay, you just waved it at me earlier.
Yes, that was one I read the first bit of because I was going to do again might have done a reading of that for library stuff, but I didn't. So. Okay, we'll move on to TV now.
Okay, you were going to say something about a film, but
I've lost that one completely. Christmas TV. So we'll cover the book tie-in. So from my view, so Box of Delights.
Yes. Should we show that to the little one, or do you think he's a bit too small?
Well, I think a bit too small for it.
Yeah, it's kind of at one point you could show him almost anything, and he wouldn't be once he got to the point where he kind of could focus on the screen and some stuff was happening there, you could show him anything that wasn't like adult or too rude or something, and he'd just be fine with it. But now he's at the point where he can actually be scared by stuff, like more.
Yeah, I think he's not quite ready for that one yet.
That's reasonable.
But yeah, that one's so there was a number of in the 80s dramatised books. So Box of Delights, Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, Children of Green, No, a couple of others. That they were dramatised in the run up to Christmas. It was
Snow Spider or one of those? What was it, Jenny Nimmo?
Yes.
Snow Spider, because I think I've read some of those books that you gave me.
Yeah.
And it has snow in it, so I think it might have been winter.
Yes,
was that one of the TV
first
ones?
one, I think at least the first one was.
I haven't seen any of these. I'm slightly young.
They you can't get them. So Box of Delights, I think, is the only one of that sort of era of shows that they released. They've not got the masters for some of these. So
okay. That's a shame. People are very nostalgic nowadays. Which is not always the best.
I mean, I doubt it's the Box of Delights stuff is a bit clunky, but it's has a certain degree of nostalgia value to it. So I don't know how the other ones would hold up. Mm-hmm. Actually, Narnia is the other one they've got.
Yeah.
But the things like the I think the Snow Spider one, they're missing as well.
It occurs to me that looking at second-hand bookstores, I quite often find books, like paperbacks, that were obviously like children's fantasy novels, and it'd be like, as seen on TV, and there'd be a still from the TV show on the front, and I wouldn't have seen the TV show, and I didn't read all the ones I had. Like, there was something with like a chalk horse.
Quite possibly.
And Box Lights, and there were a few. So I'd see those, but I wouldn't have seen the TV shows. So.
No, so obviously they're kind of linked because it was a 6-part series, and it ran 6 weeks up to Christmas on a Saturday. So that was quite, in my mind they're linked to, even if Box of Lights definitely, and so that's set at Christmas. You have a very pastoral world. You've got deep snow. You've got a very classic Christmas almost.
Same as with Dark is Rising.
Yeah.
In that there's just so much snow that it starts cutting people off.
Yeah, and it's magic, and it's obviously got the pagan aspects. Children of Green, no, that one I don't think is set at Christmas. Certainly it's winter.
That one is.
Heavily into pagan stuff. That one is.
It's actually like a thing people were writing a lot about at that point.
I think it was. I mean, think about the
There's also
Weird
like
Stone
Robin of Sherwood. I've not read Weird Stone of
Rising. I have many years ago.
Okay.
Again, that was heavily dealing into the pagan, British, English pagan traditions. So yes, those ones kind of fill of my childhood. As I say, I'm pretty certain they were for not very good to watch these days, but we have Box Delights that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think for me, the TV stuff was mostly like there was the Snowman.
Yes, the Snowman is obviously a classic.
Always the Snowman. Which in a quiz I was in the other day, I learned was first shown on Boxing Day in 1984.
Okay.
I
have no idea whether I watched it or not, but
okay, I mean, we obviously did. I think we had it on. I think we recorded it
on
on
TV.
It's
Boxing Day 1984. I might have watched it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yes. There was a different part of the quiz where I think 88 was like the latest thing in it, and I was like, I'm not doing well at this. But that was on a different subject. I'm just trying to think of Christmas TV. I say the Snowman, obviously. And I think it's more like films, because that was also when they'd get a few good films on the BBC, wouldn't they? They'd have like, this is the film we have. Oh,
you're missing the one Christmas special that you. Off.
Yes, yes. There is a Christmassy Ted, which up until I think the last couple of years I did watch each year, which I did quite enjoy. But
yes, unfortunately, that is
the creator turned out to be fairly awful. So
yes.
it's sort of it's quite love that one, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Father Christmas Ted. If we ignore the
it's called a Christmassy Ted.
Yes, if we ignore Hugh should out, shall we not be named views on the world itself is a fun.
Well, it's just kind of like Father Ted being really extra at Christmas.
Yeah.
So.
What other Christmas specials do you? I mean, there's not many. I'd say we'd go back. And
we've got the
Blackadder ones,
yeah. Which again, I only saw on DVD. I didn't sort of see it. When it was on, I didn't see it until after I'd seen a lot of the other Blackadder stuff.
I enjoy the West Wing Christmas special. I mean, they're not so much Christmas specials, but there's a couple.
Those just episodes that happen to be at Christmas.
Yeah, but they tend to be.
There was that one where Toby said that people were telling him he wasn't getting into Christmas spirit, so he got into it, and I was like, but he's Jewish, does he need to?
True.
It's like,
I mean, yes, they're just episodes of the series, but I've enjoyed.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine.
I think the thing is, most of the stuff I can think of was like, this is the Christmas episode of this children's cartoon you watch. So you'd watch the Christmas episode of the children's cartoon, which was quite often American. And I remember they had like the BBC having there's that thing about there was some special about like a big shop that some people ended up living in because they were homeless and they lived in a big department store. But I think it was more the films that I remember a bit. But then I guess I don't know. I mean, people have various things. It's just not kind of coming back to me so much, I guess.
But I suppose some other big Christmas things. I mean, for the last few years, has been Doctor Who.
That's true. Yes.
Which obviously have been very hit or miss.
Yes, I like the fact that it gets to the one point where it's a bit like everyone left London for Christmas because there's always some sort of horrible alien thing at Christmas. And having just said that, I thought everyone left London for Christmas is basically this year, so...
Except those that couldn't.
Yes, or people tried to leave London, but shouldn't have done, of course.
Anyway. So I definitely have enjoyed some of the Christmas episodes. I think the earlier ones were better than later ones.
Yeah. It's been variable. Well, I think after a while they stopped trying to make it Christmas. Because it's like, well, we've done Christmas in space, and we've done several, like, Christmas Goes Wrong in London, and we've done a planet called Christmas, and we've kind of done all the Christmas we can. And then they did New Year, and it's like, well, that's about time, though, so that actually feels a little bit better.
They did actually say that that's one of the reason they changed it was because they would simply couldn't come up with anything.
We've just crammed so much Christmas into this, it's starting to look a bit obvious.
So now that's why we get the New Year special in which they can do...
I feel like New Year's more Doctor Who-ish, because it's about time. Yeah. It's like a thing has changed to another thing, and that's like arbitrary, yes, but also like the Doctor travels in time. Although I did like the version of Christmas Carol they did, because thinking about it, that is actually a very good one to use time travel for. You don't quite get where there were sharks in the sky.
No idea either, but yeah, I thought that was one of the good ones. Although, obviously, it also has led to one of my biggest disappointments in Doctor Who, which was promising Egyptian gods on the Orient Express in space.
They did have the Orient Express in space.
They promised,
but there was a mummy. Was it a mummy?
Yes, but they promised at the end it was going to be Egyptian gods on the Orient Express in space. That was what we all promised, and instead we got Kylie Minogue on the Titanic.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like that episode and seem very angry about it, and I can kind of understand that, but I kind of... Because was that the one where they first had Bernard Cribbins in it?
I think so.
The thing is with that, the thing with Doctor Who is... I know sometimes whole episodes are very silly, and like, what was that, though? And sometimes they tug on your heartstrings, and it's almost a bit too obvious, and they're trying to get you in the feels, and other times they're not, but sometimes it gets quite complicated, you're like, I don't remember what was...
Yeah.
Or deal with, like, I once watched the Doctor Who Confidential and said, well, this was Doctor faking his own death last season. I'm like, is that what that season was about? Did no one actually say that on the screen? Because I got very confused and I don't remember. But, there's different ways you can obviously do it. But sometimes with Doctor Who, there are just, like, character moments. And even if the rest of the episode is rubbish, I quite like certain episodes that other people seem to absolutely hate just because of particular character feelings. And was it Voyage of the Damned, that one?
Yes.
With Voyage of the Damned, there's the bit where what's the actor's name? The old guy who used to play Richard Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances. He was playing like the guy who was the expert on Earth, who was like the tour guide for the Titanic. So he had all this Earth stuff, but actually it turned out he wasn't really as academic as he said he was, and it was kind of like he had some stuff, he didn't know that much. And then they get stuck on Earth. And he's there, and he says to the doctor and goes, well, I've got these, is this enough for trinkets or something? And he has a load of credit cards or something. And you can just see he's so afraid that he's stuck on this alien planet, even though he studied it and is interested in it. He's so afraid of being stuck there with no resources and nothing. And your heart goes out to him, and then the doctor says, no, that's actually like a fortune. And it's like, oh, bless him. So, yeah, I remember bits of the rest. There was like some creepy angels, and it was a bit Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah. And wasn't Egyptian gods on the Orient Express in space. And I'll be quiet now about that.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so we're,
Films now?
Films, we'll move on to films.
I don't know what to say on films.
So, I'm going to get in there first.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Muppets.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to just pick up the whole stack of DVDs? Okay.
Muppets. The Christmas film. It is the only one you need to see.
What about if you're watching Iron Man 3?
I mean, that's a good film.
It's at Christmas.
It's at Christmas.
Isn't that the director who likes putting things at Christmas, though?
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, if you're going to go for pure Christmas, feel-good film, I don't think you can get much better than this. It does Christmas Carol in an accessible way, full of Muppets, and definitely Michael Caine plays it extremely straight all the way through.
Michael Caine was really happy to do that because
Which
he did
is
a film his children
awesome.
watch. Yes, but that's how you do.
And yeah, it is brilliant. I am looking forward to the whichever anniversary release it is next year that will actually have the missing song in it.
I think I've only seen it like once.
Simple me likes, would like to see the original sort of cut of it.
Okay.
So yes, Muppets Christmas Carol. There we go.
Yes.
Mic drop. There we go. Done.
Okay.
There are other excellent films to watch at Christmas as well, but
even versions of A Christmas Carol. It's interesting because I've never read A Christmas Carol, but I know bits of it purely from just watching multiple adaptations and going, well, if they keep saying this line, it must have been in the original.
Interestingly, again, I recently read a large chunk of it just for to see whether I wanted to do a reading for work. Sorry, the library plug. Some of my colleagues from Sutton Library have done a rather good audio play adaptation of A Christmas Carol, which is very, very good, and has my librarian doing Tiny Tim, which is very funny.
I think I saved that, actually. I should probably
It's actually very good.
I feel like listening to it, I might find it a bit better than reading it, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it's they've done, they did a really good job. It's,
it's one of those ones where you know the first lines, like Marley was dead to begin with.
Yeah.
But yes.
And I can even sneak you part 3. That won't go out until next Sunday.
Oh, okay. Okay, see how we go.
But anyway, yes, I think so. There's 4 main adaptations of Christmas Carol that I would. So there's the old Alastair Sim one.
I think I have seen that.
I've seen that once, and obviously it's dated, but hey, it's old, and I think that has its redeeming. It's good. I think it's a good adaptation. There is the Patrick Stewart adaptation.
I have seen that one also.
I've seen that for a good few years. Again, that's a reasonably faithful adaptation. And obviously Patrick Stewart is excellent. Muppets Christmas Carol. And Scrooged.
Yeah, you said that to me once, and I was like, oh, okay.
I don't know, I quite enjoy it. I mean, it's a bit dated now because it was set in the 80s, late 80s, with the Scrooge character being a TV executive.
I think the thing is, though, because you're saying like adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and 3 of those are adaptations of A Christmas Carol.
I suppose.
And the other one is a story based on A Christmas Carol, which is then kind of like a whole separate genre of Christmas film.
Okay. So it's slightly out. I kind of group them together. But
I mean that Kelsey Grammer Christmas Carol the musical thing we saw was actually more of an adaptation of that. It was fine. That was the year we watched several Kelsey Grammer Christmas films.
Did I get very far in that one? Because I can't remember it.
I definitely watched all of it, and you would have been there.
I know, but I can't. It's been blanked from my mind.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So what other films for watching at Christmas?
But when you said there's 4, I thought from what you were going to say there are 4 types of Christmas film rather than just 4 adaptations.
I suppose there are 4.
Well, I don't know how many there is. Let me just count. So there's the Christmas Carol films, which are either an adaptation of the Dickens thing that's set in some version of Victoria, London, or it's anywhere else, but they do the same thing. So there's one with, obviously the Bill Murray Scrooge one. Yeah. There's one with Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah. Quantum Leap did an episode of that. Obviously Doctor Who did. So, that's like its own genre. I think the original run of Roseanne did one with Halloween. So there's that. There's It's a Wonderful Life, and then things that are like It's a Wonderful Life, which includes the Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, which we also have.
Yeah, another good.
And Whoopi Goldberg is God in that. I mean, it's not as good as Muppet Christmas Carol, but it's still
it's a good one. Yeah.
Solid Muppet.
As I say, it's a Muppet adaptation of a Muppet take on It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, but it's the Kermit. Basically, Fozzie is Uncle What's His Face, and Kermit is the George Bailey, and then Joan Crawford's in it. Joan Cusack's in it as Joan Cusack's in it as like the evil person, which is fun because Joan Cusack has played like nice characters for so long that every so often she plays evil. And you're like, oh, that's fun. Then there's This Is Some Stuff About Santa, which is the main genre film I've been watching recently with our son.
Yes.
Who actually gets really into the peril of it. Because every time like Santa's sleigh crashes or something looks like it's going to cancel Christmas, he's like, what about my Lego house? And I'm like, it's just a film, it's fine.
Santa's not really crashed, you'll get your Lego house with windows.
But he has a stake in it this year. He has a stake.
That's true.
Yes, so we watched Our for Christmas as well, which is obviously Aardman, very Aardman, very British.
So what's our fourth version?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's the film set at Christmas.
It's the film set at Christmas, but then do you go like the Christmas rom-commy type thing, which would
suppose
include all the
that is-
format ones that we don't really watch?
I suppose
so
that is a sub. So you've got one set at Christmas, so you've Die
Ones at
Hard.
Christmas that are about Christmas rather than like well no, because Die Hard would be a fifth one where it's set at Christmas. Is it about Christmas like Iron Man 3?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's the ones that are at Christmas, but they're
The
not.
Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, they're not Christmassy. They're not.
Christmas is there.
The focus isn't Christmas,
But it's
and
not
it's
about
definitely something you
Christmas.
can watch at Christmas, because I definitely...
Like, this nonsense could be happening at a different time of
Die
year.
Hard is excellent to be watching at Christmas, but you could watch it at another time. Likewise, Long Kiss Goodnight, Iron Man 3, all of those that are...
Other films by that same guy.
Yes. Although, Gremlins, not so much. Gremlins, I think, would be... you could... I think it's...
The sequel was at Halloween, wasn't it?
No, but the first one
Yeah, the first one's Christmas.
is very Christmas.
I'm not saying there's no bleed through between
Yeah,
these things.
Gremlins is another good excellent Christmas watching film.
I really should have probably written some down and pre-thought this. I was going to come up with some sort of categorization. But yeah. So one thing I want to talk about that I watched this year's new is Christmas on the Square by Dolly Parton.
Okay.
Which is an interesting mixture of things. So also it stars Christine Baranski and it does like singing and it's a musical.
Which is why I didn't watch it.
Yeah, well...
Okay, well, yeah, it doesn't immediately appeal. I'm sure
it's quite cheesy in a sense. Like, there's a guy who's a Christian pastor, and his name is Pastor Christian.
Right, okay.
And there's lots of people getting ready for Christmas in a lovely town where everyone's like singing and dancing. That's nice. And then a woman whose father was like in charge of the town, who was like the benevolent leader of the town. They didn't say May, just a rich guy who helped found a lot of things, I think, comes back and basically tries to evict an entire town. And then it's kind of a mixture between Christmas Carol, It's a Wonderful Life, also various themes from the Dolly Parton Heartstrings series, which is pretty good but not Christmas. And Heartstrings is interesting. Like they're all good. Some of them are quite like a couple like quite light-hearted. And you think, oh, okay, and like particularly Two Doors Down. It's like, oh, this isn't quite fun. Everyone's resolved things, and then they suddenly get very like some of them get quite heavy, and some of them are like, oh, this was good but heartbreaking. But there are some themes from some of those episodes which reoccur in this, like people looking back over their lives, mistakes we made, people getting situations that weren't acceptable in the past and then having to do not great things to kind of get out of that, and like people making decisions, not communicating very well, and families, not talking and stuff. But Dolly Parton's like a vagrant angel.
Fair enough.
Or she plays vagrant angel. Which might actually be one that seems pretty
Who
feasible.
knows? I mean, we're willing to go with that.
She's a very impressive woman.
Yes.
But yeah, it was quite cheesy but fun, but not quite as light-hearted as I thought it might be.
Okay.
But yeah, but with plenty of light-hearted little bits.
Okay, we're obviously another classic Christmas film, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
Which obviously is a Christmas film.
Yeah.
That's good fun.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's an entire subgenre of Halloween that's sort of based off, or subgenre, sort of people celebrate Christmas like it's through the Tim Burton.
Okay. So I think it was subgenre film.
No, not subgenre film.
Obviously Tim Burton's made other films,
yes,
including ones like that, and then other people have made stop-motion things.
I think people sort of celebrate Christmas.
Okay. It's like the foundational text of Goth Christmas, I guess.
Yeah. So, what other Christmas films? Christmas Chronicles. We've seen one or two.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
right. Yeah.
They're not too bad. Modern Christmas. Kurt Russell. I also said Douglas, which is the wrong Kurt. Kurt Russell playing Santa Claus. Oh, that was fun. Untitled. What other ones have we?
Well, Rise of the Guardians, because you told me not to talk about with Hogfather.
Okay, yes, go on then. Yes, go on. Sorry.
It occurs to me that Hogfather is also actually a film or a very long TV series.
True.
That's interesting because you've kind of got you've got Santa, and you've got the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy, and the Sandman, and Jack Frost. So it's quite, even though it's Easter, it's quite wintry, and I'm like, this must be quite far north somewhere. I mean, it's in America, but I don't know where it's still quite snowy in the north. I don't know bits of America, I guess. So that's interesting, but that, much like Hogfather, it's very about children, but that's because it's a children's film. The children are kind of front and centre, but then you've got, like, Hugh Jackman as Australian Easter Bunny, and then you've got, like, big Russian Santa with, like, naughty tattooed on one arm and nice tattooed on the other. And he's like quite jolly, but also like quite fearsome.
Yeah.
Well, as I was on Twitter, a friend said something about like that was one of her favourite versions of Santa, and I was like, yes. I said, you could really see this version, punching a bishop at the Council of Nicaea. Because one thing I found out from a different history podcast, which is Totalitarian Roman emperors. Is at the Council of Nicaea, St. Nicholas, who is the kind of OG of, Santa Claus Father Christmas, he punched an opposing bishop.
Hey,
Well, some sources, he was definitely there, and some sources claim he punched a bishop who believed in the Arian heresy, though that was around the time they were deciding it was a heresy. So they, in the podcast, they just joked like Santa Claus. Not all sources said it, but one source says it got a bit heated, and St. Nicholas punched another bishop. I thought,
why not?
I thought it was interesting that Christmas Chronicles, the second one, did actually say, "Oh, this is the origin of Santa." It's like, we're going to like 312 AD, and like he was a Turkish bishop who was like giving toys to children. I'm like, he doesn't seem terribly Turkish now, but that's a reasonable thing because in Rise of the Guardians, where they've got Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy and stuff, that's he's like very Russian, and I'm like, does anyone ever do like Turkish Santa? Because that's sort of where it starts, I think. But then I suppose most cultures have their own thing like that. But yes, I just think because Rise of the Guardians, it's got that kind of shiny American stuff to it, and it's got that kind of like, these are holidays for children, which is kind of alluded to in Nightmare Before Christmas as well. But obviously you've got Halloween and Christmas. With that, it's like you've got, Sandman, Tooth Fairy, and you've got the boogeyman who's called Pitch because he's darkness, which again is actually, these all linked together, which again is a bit like The Dark is Rising, because the whole point of that is that there's darkness. And the film version of that is a bit cheesy because they suddenly made the main family American, which I can see why for film purposes. But then all these children are leaving a school that looks entirely American, and they get on a school bus, and then suddenly they're in an English village, and I'm like, did this bus cross the Atlantic?
Magic bus.
What happened here? And it says it was an American family living in sort of rural England, and it's sort of it's got sort of cheesy bits in it, but you can see the good stuff in it. But that had the whole thing where you've got the Dark Rider who shows up and wants to bring darkness. Now in the film, it's like, he is the Dark Rider and he brings darkness, and he's just really menacing. And it's basically just a bit of a waste of Christopher Eccleston, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that was the year of wasting Christopher Eccleston.
Well, it was. I mean, Thor: The Dark World. He was basically the exact same character, except not a dark elf and not in so much makeup, he's just a man. But when you read the book, there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot more interesting. But so there's sort of stuff about darkness. But I suppose the whole point of having a midwinter festival is things have been getting darker and darker and darker, and that's not great, is it? And now maybe we'll do some sort of celebration to make ourselves feel better, and also then the sun will come back, which again leads back to Hogfather.
And once again, quite apt for this year, but hopefully. So, another Christmas film I thought of, a classic Christmas film that I have seen once, but Miracle on 34th Street.
I've not actually seen that.
I've seen the sort of classic, and I think I might have actually seen the remake as well. I've seen It's It's
Wonderful Life. It's very long.
Yes, we've got It's a Wonderful Life. That's it. Yeah, we'll come back.
It's very long. You have to feel like you want something sad.
Miracle on 34th Street. I mean, it's obviously I think if you're gonna do classic Christmas films, that's one to do. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's one for me to watch every year. Much like It's a Wonderful Life. I mean,
yeah, it's been a few years since I've watched that.
Yeah, I think last time we watched it together was when you bought it, and then
It's because nothing was showing it. But I mean, I didn't.
Yes, also I hadn't seen. That was the first time I saw it. So.
Yeah, well, I don't need to. I think we recorded it when I was younger, but it was when I was a teenager. But again, it's one of these things. You've seen so many things that are based off of it. You understand the premise. It's actually based off of a short story.
That was one of the ones I was going to say was based on the book.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's kind of that's sort of the whole idea of. Because obviously a lot of things do that. So obviously the Muppets did it, and like the Dolly Parton things. Well, it's got an angel in trying to sort stuff out. It's kind of, I think that's one of the main ones that gets adapted. It's not just for Christmas stuff. It's like you could, like if you're doing a TV show that's ongoing, you can do an alternate world of like, what if this character wasn't here? How would that have affected? Like if the main character wasn't here, how would that have affected the show? But I mean, we watched one that was a little bit like that recently, but they've done a slight twist. It's kind of like time travel as well. But in that, the angel actually says, "This is a parallel world." It's like, oh, okay, because I feel like it all happens like, oh, and then it's like, oh, I had this strangest dream, or something, and it's like actually, I think that's probably a parallel world. And I don't feel like most things go into that as much as they perhaps should do. But it's quite often a way of reaffirming a character's importance to those around them. And also giving a portrait of life. Like the reason the film's so long is because you have to really know George Bailey and what he's done for his community.
Otherwise, it's really much
to understand.
I think where and that often works better as in a series or.
Well, I think that's why it's quite often a TV episode.
The Muppet one
we
works.
We already know who Kermit Frog is.
We know who Kermit is. We know the characters. So when we see the changes, we appreciate how bad it is. Whereas you can't just kind of do it without.
Well, you have to have quite a bit of setup.
Yeah.
But, I think there's room for. I feel like there should be a TV series where somebody's told it's an alternate world, but then if their life and the world they came from was so not great, they're like, well, maybe I'll stay here and try and sort things out for people, and then you just have it as an ongoing series.
Kind of Quantum Leap-esque.
Well, no, because that's lots of different. I think they've been the same thing.
Yes,
and they're like trying to help out, but then they'd probably meet somebody whose life was actually better because they weren't around. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's not great." But then it's like that's just how things are, though.
Yeah. What other? Do we have any other? I think we covered most of those we will watch regularly.
I'm not sure there's the Snake Man.
Yeah.
Every year, and I think it's just also when the BBC had put on like some sort of like. Big film that had been out a while ago, but you hadn't seen because you were a child.
Yeah, I think that's.
Or we didn't buy things.
That one doesn't quite. Obviously, yes. Back in the day, getting the Radio Times, Christmas Radio Times, and leafing through, seeing where the films are that you wanted to watch, seeing what the.
Yes.
That was always a big part of Christmas. It's not so much with streaming and.
Yeah. Sure as the list of Christmas films we were watching. I've put over there.
We can go get it if you like. And that's obviously being an adult and buying DVDs. That also doesn't. But yeah, the stuff that's on TV isn't. I mean, we used to buy a Radio Times, but just didn't. It was the one time we used to buy a Radio Times, but just didn't do much with it other than go. Well, there's some TV, and I think honestly, terrestrial TV these days for us is not really.
No, there's only a few things, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think the other categories of Christmas, when you're saying films at Christmas, I think that can be subdivided into there's like the romancy ones, there's Hallmark, and then stuff that isn't Hallmark but it's similar. But then there's also the family ones, which can often, and again, if it watches quite as much, can be a bit sort of zany. So you've got the stuff where either families are feeding over lights, or like somebody's got to.
Yeah, I suppose there is the.
Oh, Look Who's Talking 3.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just thinking when I was a kid, that's got a whole Christmas bit in it. Although again, it's crossed because that. Yeah, I didn't really watch that much as a child. Okay. It was. I've seen them
through. Both. I mean, it's a classic. It's set at Christmas, but it's not really. I mean, there's questions to what be asked about that family for a start.
Quite. It's a bit like their house is this big and they have this many children. What is this guy's job?
but yeah, that one is. Yeah,
that's. Well, they're both at Christmas, aren't they?
Yes, they both are.
Yeah.
And obviously the second. Yeah.
Well, because Look Who's Talking 3 is when it's the dogs talking, not the babies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's just because I think we had 1 and 3 on recorded on VHS off the TV. Before he gets the dogs that talk, and then
Fair
their marriage isn't going that well, and then there's this whole thing where like he's trying to fly home for Christmas, but his boss is trying to seduce him or something.
Right. Okay.
I don't remember it very well. Of course, now that I think about it, a lot of the actors involved have now turned out to be very strange and unpleasant people. So yeah,
We'll move past that then. Yeah.
I was just thinking, it's like I'm sure there's something else I used to watch not at Christmas, but had a Christmas.
I think we're kind of broadening into a lot more of the children's Christmas stuff. I mean, with this, there's the children's Christmas stuff that we would have watched ourselves because we're big kids. But there's also things like Nativity and
yes. Well, I think that's like the family stuff bit. Well, there's kind of some stuff focused. I suppose you've got the focus on relationships, which is the romancy ones, or whatever level that is. You've got the focus on family, which is usually where like people try and pull family stuff together, and there's various complications and things. I mean, the Family Stone, that's at Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just the most awkward film. But that was kind of interesting. Yeah, we've just got family coming together, and then you've got stuff like Nativity, where it's like people are trying to do a Christmas thing.
Yeah,
I guess.
but we haven't really those ones though.
Well, it depends. I mean, these are very broad categories.
Yeah, but those sort of ones we just haven't watched because they're not really us.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends. I mean, if you look at Alpha Christmas, that is a film about the stuff behind Santa, but then it's also about family very much so, because that's kind of the whole point, is that they're a dynasty of
I suppose the other one, again, another one.
There's intergenerational sort of story.
Elf,
yes. I don't think I've seen that all the way through. We've missed a lot of these.
I have. But again, it's not
I've seen a lot of bits of it.
It's not something I necessarily want to sit down and watch. I mean, I'm sure Nathaniel would want to watch it.
Yeah, well, this thing, now we have a kid who will just kind of watch these as we go. I think the one I've seen was the Tim Allen one, the Santa Claus I've seen.
Possibly.
I might
have seen that one as well.
No, I've seen that one. I think there's just like quite a lot. Every year there's like new ones, but I think it used to be like, here is the 1 or 2 films. They would have come out in America the year before, but then you wouldn't know anyone in America to talk to, whereas now obviously there's loads of Americans on social media, which is fair enough.
Americans everywhere. Everywhere, I tell you.
Well, no, it's just that like it used to be like stuff come out a year later wouldn't probably matter so much, but now it does.
Yeah.
Yes. So the one we watched the other night was a New York Christmas Wedding, which is on Netflix, and it's kind of got a time travel, not quite as one but like kind of parallel world dimension to it, in that it's like somebody made a decision, like things turned out a different way, and that's like a woman who's engaged to a rich guy with a very overbearing mother, then suddenly goes to an alternate world where she's engaged to her childhood best friend, and that's all nice and stuff. And then, various people who were dead in her original timeline are then alive, which is nice. And then, yes, and there's like a very camp angel, and that's got nice, because a lot of people have been talking about there's some sort of like lesbian Christmas film with Kirsten Stewart in it. No, is it? Kirsten Stewart. Which I've heard people talk about, but I don't know if it's on any of the streaming services we have. I don't know if it's just in the US. And I've seen some people sort of talked about it and gone, this seems a bit like it's nice they did a Christmas romance with 2 ladies, but also it's falling into a lot of unpleasant tropes that maybe could have been avoided because you don't have the guy-girl thing, and also people like lying about whether they're out or not. And at first I sort of saw this on Netflix, thought, was that the one I'm talking about? But then I realised this one was different. But it was like, again, it was heavier than I was expecting, but it was generally nice. So that's one. Yeah. Oh, how about the Grinch? Have you seen any versions of Grinch? Because I think I've seen 2 now, but there are like, how many are there?
There's quite a few. I've read the Dr. Seuss story.
Yes. I think I remember being a bit freaked out by it because of his heart changing size. That's the kind of thing that used to freak me out a bit.
Yeah, he really needs to go see a doctor about that.
So we watched the one that's most recently on Netflix because our little boy wants to watch it. So I watched that with him. That's like a live action.
Was that Jim Carrey?
No, the Jim Carrey was a while ago. No, that's I don't remember.
Anyway.
It's a very recent one, but there's a lot more stuff about Whoville being a whole town, and there's a lot more stuff about the town, the community, and stuff. And like the little girl Cindy Lou, there's lots of about her and her friends because her mother's always like rushed off her feet and so busy, and so she just wants her mother to kind of like.
To be fair,
and there's lots about the Grinch's backstory.
You'd have to put a bit more in because there's not much in the book.
Yeah, so I remember watching the cartoon as a kid, and then I don't know if I've seen the Jim Carrey one. Jim Carrey's really into the colour green, isn't he?
Yeah.
If you look at his role, it's like there's a lot of green happening here.
Obviously likes green. Yeah, it's not one I've really. I think it's big in America. Obviously, very popular story in America. So
yeah, that's right.
That's why it gets retold a few times. Okay, shall we wrap this up? Do we have any other?
Sure. I wasn't sure what other festive stuff you wanted to talk about, like stuff we've done, but I think we've just talked about media now, haven't we?
I think as for sort of festive stuff we've done, I made mince pies. I made a gluten-free chocolate log. I've made a Christmas cake. I mean, that's quite a lot of baking for me. So, yeah. I mean, the mince pies are good. The chocolate log was.
It was well. I mean,
it's
mostly frosting the bit I had. So, but the little bit of sponge I had tasted good. I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Cross fingers that the cake is good, but I haven't tried it yet. That'll get cracked into.
How much booze was in the cake?
So about half a 35 centilitre bottle of whiskey. So. 18 centilitres or so.
Okay, yes, that would make sense.
A reasonable amount.
Sure.
Although a lot of that cooked off. A lot of that was in the fruits that would have cooked off.
Oh, okay.
So it's not as much.
Okay.
It's not.
It's basically a drunk cake.
It's not a drunk cake. No, I did not feed it as much as I could do.
Okay, sure.
Well, I thought best to err on the side of moderation the first time.
Sure.
And if it works well, and I think it needs more alcohol, I can put more alcohol in next time.
Okay. Well, that's something to look forward to next year, then, I guess.
More alcoholic cake. Yes. Suppose this year I haven't done a Christmas model this year. I usually do some sort of Christmas model, paint it. I did finish off the one from last year, which was a Krampus in a Christmas house. So I've decorated the house, and so now that's quite nice. I do have some monster Christmas baubles I need to finish off one year. So one's finished, but I've got another two to go along with the undead, the zombie Santa head.
We have some interesting stuff on our tree.
We have a giant robot as the tree topper.
That's always our tree topper.
So you can kind of see the sigh of resignation there.
That's fine. Well,
Next year it'll be a better one.
Will it? Okay. Oh, is that the one that's coming from Japan?
Well, yeah. Once it's back in stock.
Okay.
No, it needs to come back in stock.
Oh, okay.
It's the updated version of the one I've got.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, and you of course been finishing off your.
Yes. I don't know how Christmassy it feels though, because I'm just like doing birds, and then I did a cow, which obviously people have seen me do if they're watching these, and then after that it kind of has to be people.
I don't know. I mean,
well, although little one was quite annoyed because he said it was a cow. He's like, no, it's a lady, and I'm like, well, a lady's difficult. He's like, a lady. I'm like, fine, so your own lady.
Yes, he's.
Although looking at them all together, the cow is kind of on the small side. But I think I cut it out without like making reference to the other ones. But I need to trim them all down a bit because they're all a bit large.
I think it looks good.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I must be honest. The song itself is only Christmassy because these are all gifts given at Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not actually anything intrinsically Christmassy about the.
No. Yeah, I feel like partridges don't get mentioned a lot in general, so you just kind of they come up in the song and that sort of bit.
Oh no, it looks good. Looks good. Yeah. I think we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
Christmas puns.
Yes.
Christmas puns.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll try and get this on YouTube tomorrow. So if people who
can actually share it.
Yeah, people who otherwise it's a bit late. So we're not going to burst into song or anything. We will say we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
We hope you have. I mean, everyone.
Better New Year.
Betty, I hope
That's my new thing. I'm saying this. Better New Year.
I was going to say, however you spend your Christmas, I hope it is what you want, because everyone has a different view of Christmas, and I hope however you spend it is.
Well, a lot of people's Christmases have been curtailed.
I appreciate, yes.
So I think it's just let's hope that you can make the best of your situation.
And we will hopefully be back in the new year for our grand 2020 retrospective.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I thought we mentioned this already.
Maybe in passing.
Yeah, maybe. Where we will talk about things we have enjoyed about 2020. Because I think there has been. I think we've read some books that we've enjoyed. You see some films and TV we've enjoyed.
Having things just like a super.
We just ignore the rest of it.
That's why we're doing this, because it was a bit like maybe we should talk to people that aren't just the two of us. And also the toddler.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, I think to be honest, we've just been talking to Bethan, but hello Bethan. Thank you for watching. Thank you for validating us.
We drew out the ending.
Yes, we drew out the ending. Of course, I do. Right. So shall I go? Have a very Merry Christmas and a better New Year, and we'll see you in 2021.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Stay safe.